Good morning, McGuanago, and welcome to From the Den. I have Wayne Castle with me, our utility director for the Village of McGuanago. Wayne, how's it going?
It's going great. How about yourself?
I'm wonderful. Nice to see some better weather, I should say. So I brought you here today because we want to talk a little bit about this elephant that's in the room called water rates. When residents opened up their bills this month, they kind of saw a little bit of adjustment. Maybe tell me a little bit what those changes mean. I know we've been talking about this for a year, but can you explain what just took place?
Yeah, so the adjustment that our customers would have seen is actually pretty minimal this quarter. The only thing that was really affected at this point is the base rate for the water utility. Um, because currently we bill quarterly. Uh, there was only 2 months that fell under this rate increase. So uh, residents, 1 month that fell under this rate increase. So residents would have seen what we call a blended rate, which basically take the previous rate and the new rate, and they average that out for the remaining days in the quarter. The actual step one rate increase for usage will not hasn't didn't take effect till March 2nd, so people won't see that until their next quarter bill.
So so that's interesting. What does that rate increase look like? I mean, and before you answer that question, I have seen a lot of media recently with other communities about their rate increases, and everybody's going through this. So maybe explain what that rate increase is and then how you got there.
Yeah, so really, this rate increase is driven by the water infrastructure investments project that's going on currently. Um, what we did was you're really limited with the way you can raise rates within a water utility. Um, there's a conventional rate increase, simplified rate increase. Well, we took the path of a conventional rate increase, and then we took it one step further. We did something that's known as a two-step rate increase, and you could do that when you have a large infrastructure project coming up. And so this first step, which, as I said, just went into effect, the average customer uh, will see about an 8.8% increase on the water portion of their bill only.
Okay. That's interesting. So who sets that amount? Do you set that amount or Public Service Commission, or how does that work?
We certainly don't set that amount. Um, I'd like to say that it's quite simple. It's really just a math problem. It's math that I can't do. We we actually work with a consultant that does all that work for us, that accounting, and then we send in an application to the Public Service Commission that regulates all water utilities in the state of Wisconsin. And so there's a process, and that's you could see that that's highlighted on their website as well. But there's a process that they undergo, and they essentially they're just looking at our operation and maintenance, cost of materials. They're looking at simply put what's called taxes. I mean, we call it payment pilot or payment in lieu of taxes. So even though we're a public entity, water utilities are still subject to paying taxes. So we pay taxes to the Village of Mukwonago, and debt, and they look at those, and essentially they make up what the rate should look like to cover all of those expenses and to have a small rate of return, which again, some people look at it as a profit, but rate of return is what's required by the Public Service Commission so that we can attract capital to continue to make investments in the water infrastructure so that, things don't get behind and that we keep up on it.
So that's an interesting point. You're actually a business. You are an enterprise fund of the village, but you have to act like a business. You have to pay for the services that you provide, but in the private sector, that actually would cost a lot more than what it's costing you today to run your department?
Sure. I mean, the state of Wisconsin, it's just something that's been pretty common for water utilities to be publicly owned. So the village owns a water utility. They are the owner, but the water utility itself is a business. It's not a nonprofit. We don't collect taxes. The service we provide is paid through our rates. So we have expenses that we have to cover to do that. And we, like I said, a small rate of return. It's much smaller than what you would see if we were a privately held utility. There actually is one in the state of Wisconsin. I believe it's Superior. Don't call me out if I'm wrong on that. But if you pay attention to the news, you can see that the city actually wants to purchase it. They think they can run the utility cheaper. Um, and the fact of the matter is, if we were a privately held water utility, we actually would be allowed to um, collect a slightly larger rate
Right.
of return,
Yeah.
just like a private business, because they have to attract capital to make investments into their utility. So it's a little bit different.
That's interesting. During this process this last year, and I got to attend, the Public Service Commission held a public hearing here at Village Hall, right? And they did actually have one idea, maybe I should say, or proposal of where the rates should be. And after that public hearing, did they amend that? You want to talk about that? How that happened?
Yeah. So part of the rate increase, as we've been talking about, it includes the rate of return. And so when we initially filled out the application, there was a rate of return established, and that's typically established by the Public Service Commission. They have this calculation based on certain economic factors, and so they have what they call the recommended rate of return. At that time, we went along with that. I believe it was 6.7 or 6.8%. Um, we held the public hearing. People are allowed to attend in person. They, virtually, whatever, to make public comments. But there was certainly a lot of comments, a lot of pushback, a lot of opinions on it. Understandably so, and it was a lot. So uh, I wanted to figure out a way that we could improve upon that, given the comments, and we went back to work and we asked the Public Service Commission if we could lower the rate of return. Um, first and foremost, we had to make sure that we would remain financially stable
Right.
to do so. And we felt that we can. So we asked for a lower rate of return at 4.9%. It doesn't sound like a lot, but what that equates to was just shy of about a 20% overall increase. So, I mean, a significant amount.
Absolutely. But what a difference that made as well. And I think it made the residents feel listened to, although that obviously will change some of your future um, plans.
Yeah,
Um,
certainly. I mean, I hope that our customers feel like they're listened to. We truly care. I mean, we don't want to raise the rates. We This has been a stressful and tough situation. This is the first rate increase I've ever been a part of. I learned so much. Um, you know,
Well,
I
and
th-
I just stop here for a second because I want to thank you because you went out of your way to talk to each and every one of them. So anyone who called you, you put your name on the line and said, "Give me a call. Here's my cell phone. I'm here. I'll listen to you." So I do thank you for that because it's that type of customer service that we don't always see in government. So that makes a big difference for
yeah,
people.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for me at least, when it comes to public service, one of the most rewarding parts, or the part that I most of the time enjoy, is working with customers and helping them get to where it is they're looking to be. They may not always like the answer, but I always uh, try
You
to be
you
courteous and
explain it to
nice.
them, you educate them, you tell them, a lot of people don't know what happens, how they get their water, why their meter might need adjusting or updating. Or yeah,
It,
there's a lot.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, when was the last time we did a water rate?
So the last conventional rate increase was 2018, and prior to that was actually 2010. So really, our rates haven't moved too much, which is not really ideal
Right.
in terms of trying to keep rates flat. That was a big comment. A lot of comments on that is, trying to keep the rates flat. Well, if you want to do that, you really have to look at your rates more often. As I mentioned earlier, there is another method of adjusting rates, and that's what's called a simplified rate increase. We did do one, I believe, maybe two of those since 2018. Um, the kicker there is that you have to qualify, and so every year we fill out an annual report with all of our financials and statistics for the year that the PSC tracks. And when that's done, essentially they look at what your overall rate of return was for the year, and if it's below a certain benchmark that they set, you can qualify for essentially what I would call kind of like an inflationary increase. Typically, it's around 3%. It could vary a little bit, but if you qualify, you get the whole thing, and you can do that up to 5 times between conventional rate increases. So you could do a conventional rate increase, and then you could do 5 years of um, simplified
Simplified.
rate increases before you have to go back for a conventional rate increase.
Well, that's interesting. So, because I guess my next question, if I was, the resident asking you, I'd say, "Well, are you going to do this every year?" And so your answer is plainly, obviously, going to be you have to run a business, so you can't really tell me if you're going to be doing this every year. But
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mean, in a perfect world, I think we should be analyzing it every year and looking at it. I mean, I don't think I've been around long enough to know that um, people want their rates to be flat, but then on the flip side, most people don't want to see a 2, 3, 4, even 5% rate increase on their services every year. Typically the conversation just turns into, oh, you need to cut something or whatever. And, that's not really the case for us. I mean, we have expenses that are there no matter what, and those costs are going up, such as fuel and our We Energies bill and so on and so forth. So I guess, if
yeah,
I look at the public and I say, what is it that you want? Do you want your rates to stay the same as long as possible and jump in spikes, or do you want 'em to stay flat and have us stay on top of it, which means smaller increases
more frequently.
more
Yeah,
frequently?
yeah. Um, so what they call this rate increase is a tariff, right?
Yes.
It's a tariff that comes down from the Public Service Commission. So with that, there were 2 steps, and did I hear that, with this rate change comes some alternative payment methods or some relief in electronic payment methods of some sort?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. I really want to provide value to our customers. I mean, the thing that we provide is pretty boring, but it's essential. And y- you know, the one thing that I think we can try our best to be better at is customer service, and usually that's just how we conduct ourselves. But there are certain things that we're limited on. So, for example, one of the biggest things we've heard over the last since we implemented our new billing software, I want to say that was about 2018. We have the ability to accept electronic payments, and unfortunately, anytime you make a transaction electronically, there is a fee. Public Service Commission's been very specific about fees when it comes to electronic payments. We can't cover those, and we use a vendor. You're always using a third party vendor
Right.
for electronic payments. So um, we basically asked for permission to cover those fees. And at least the goal was to offer at least one method for free to the customer to encourage electronic payments. I think it's going to be easier for the customer to pay their bill. They don't have to worry about writing a check or even coming to the village hall. It actually improves our process on our end. It's more automated. There's not really any manual work that staff members or the utility billing clerk has to do within the software. So it really streamlines a lot of stuff. So the goal is by next quarter to have something implemented as far as a free payment goes. Um, we're also looking at a developing a leak policy. That's not something that we've had before. That's something that, of course, you have to again ask the Public Service Commission to have. And
What is a leak policy?
so a leak, that's what it's called. When you say leak to people, they think, oh, I have water, flowing out of a pipe somewhere. It's broken. And yes, that's true. But a lot of the time when we refer to leaks, what we mean is unintended water use. So, number one cause of high water bills, believe it or not, is leaky toilets. So toilets that are running, that water goes straight down the drain. It doesn't make a mess. It doesn't really cause any problems, out of sight, out of mind. If your toilet is running, please fix it right away, because
That
it
adds up.
it does add up. If you figure a toilet running nonstop for 90 days, it's big. I've seen usages of over 180,000 gallons in a quarter, which is a bill well in excess of $1,000. Again, that's a cost that we incurred. It went through the meter. We had to pump that water. We had to treat that water. And on the wastewater side, obviously it went down the pipe, and we had to deal with it and treat it too. So, what the leak policy allows us to do is to provide some relief to the customer that has a high water bill. That doesn't mean that they're going to get anything necessarily for free, but we currently have uh, a tiered rate structure, meaning as you use more water, the cost of water goes down. There's three tiers. So if we determine that your bill would qualify per the policy for some kind of relief, then that extra water would get billed at the lowest tier. So there would be relief that way. And I'd like to do something again on the wastewater side as well. So those policies would likely go hand in hand.
Interesting, because yeah, I've been at the counter where someone's come in and it's usually someone who's been out of town for a while and their toilet was leaking.
Yeah,
It's
previously it's been a
just
pretty high bar, and typically um, we've only provided credits, if you will, on the sewer end of things, and it's been a high bar, and it has to go to the board, and we've been pretty specific on not providing that on the water side of things.
so to add with the step two of this uh, structure tariff, I guess I would say, did I hear there's going to be some monthly billing?
Yeah, so step two, um, when that comes, and I get asked a lot, when is that coming? I don't have that exact date in mind yet. Step two is based around uh, the water utility improvements that are going on. So when that project's complete and that expense is on the books, so to speak, that is when we are allowed to implement those rates, or mandated, I guess, to implement those rates. So I'm guessing sometime in the first or second quarter of next year. And at that time, we are planning to switch to monthly billing. Again, this goes back to, in my opinion, customer service. Um, there is, the intent was never to make customers think that their water bill is going down. It's not. You're going to pay exactly the same amount for water and sewer that you were paying before, but going to monthly billing
A little more manageable probably for people on a fixed income. And
It becomes much more manageable. Instead of getting this larger bill every 3 months, you get a much more manageable bill on a monthly basis. I mean, look at anything else that you pay for. I don't know of a single private business or whatnot that bills quarterly, maybe except for insurance. I don't know. Um, but yeah, that's the intent. And additionally, it's going to be beneficial to customers as well. We'll be reading meters more often. We'll be able to catch leaks uh, more often. I mean, if you have a leak that starts shortly after you read, I mean, there's
that can go
80
90 days
it,
before someone, yeah.
perfect or exactly perfect. I don't know why I said that. Um, yeah, exactly. And that adds up. So we'll be able to catch those more often. And yeah, I just think it's gonna help provide for much better service all around.
So you hit on something that I want to talk about. You were talking about a project that goes online. So what project is that? And can you tell me a little bit? I'm assuming you're talking about the HMO plant,
Yeah.
well number
So
4.
yeah. So the HMO plant, HMO is an acronym for a term known as hydrous manganese oxide, and it's meant to remove radium in the water. Now, the main driver behind the project wasn't necessarily to remove radium. In fact, that was not the main benefit. It was a secondary benefit, but it's a great secondary benefit, I think. The primary benefit or reason behind the project was to increase our water capacity, specifically what we call firm capacity. And the simplest way I could say that it's the amount of water that we need to supply to make sure that we're able to operate, with equipment being down or kind of that worst case scenario, that most reasonable worst case scenario, so that when you open your faucet, you won't be without water, or if there's a fire, for example, that we'll have ample water supply to extinguish or provide fire protection.
So I guess I want to ask because I feel like people, some questions that I've heard, I guess I should say. Um, is all this development going on in McWanago the reason why this plant is going in, or that are there any concerns, I should say, for capacity here?
No, that I mean, the reason we're doing this project is to address current capacity needs that we have. I mean, I would say in a perfect world, maybe would have done this a little bit sooner. Um, by no means would I say that we're going to run out of water tomorrow or anything. Um, you know, uh, any developments that are going on or in the queue, they're not driving this project. This is a need now. So in reality, I would say it's probably been growth that's happened within the village over the course of many years in the past. So this isn't a future uh, thing causing this. This is a past thing that's caused this. I mean, ultimately, growth of any sort, even if it's just a subdivision, at some point, enough of that happens. You're going to have to address your infrastructure, be it larger, water mains or additional pumps or
And
a new
so,
source of
yeah,
water.
you bring up a really good point because I know from the development side, when I meet with developers as well, they obviously pay an impact fee after they've met and analyzed what their need is. But um, before that even happens, we're meeting with them to determine our capacity and whether or not we can offer them the service that they need. So, I mean, all of this stuff is vetted from the very beginning, right?
It is majority of the development, at least in my time, usage is not really that far off the charts. I mean, um, something that's more of concern would be a heavy user, like maybe a food manufacturer,
Right, right.
which we don't currently have anything like that. So,
Or in a location where we don't already have the infrastructure in place.
right, and and in those cases, the developers always on the
Have to
hook.
pay the bill to extend that water and sewer
Right,
service.
they have to extend the infrastructure. Um, so we don't extend infrastructure. We don't necessarily put in brand new infrastructure. Those that infrastructure and those needs are figured out, and the developers on the hook for that. They install it, they dedicate it, basically give it to us. Um, it's when we need to do upgrades or new capacity, that's where the water utility makes those investments. And like you mentioned, impact fees, if it's an impact fee eligible type of project, then we can use those
To
um,
fund that
to help
project then on the
to
other
help
side.
fund that. We don't always have, enough impact fees to cover every single project, but even so, as new impact fees come in, they can cover previous projects that we've done. It's kind of a balancing act, if you will.
Sure. One thing you mentioned too was about the O&M basically of your already existing infrastructure. And we have State Highway 83 coming in here real soon. So you have this major project that is in your lap right now, relaying 100-year-old infrastructure all through the downtown.
Yeah. The state has finally started talking about coming through and rehabbing the highway and all the way through the village, and it couldn't come anytime sooner because we've got infrastructure.
That
You,
needs replacing, and you have to just time that.
yeah, I mean, it's something that the village both utilities have held off on because there's quite a bit of expense in repairing the road. If this was a village owned road, I would like to think this project would have happened already. But because of the road, it's kind of gotten pushed to be dependent on the state. So yeah, I mean, it's still several years out, but we've got about a mile of water and another mile of about sewer pipe that we'll be replacing. I don't have any exact records, but my understanding is, the water and wastewater infrastructure that's in there is just over a little bit over 100 years old. So we've definitely gotten our use out of it, and it's time to do something. I mean, we've had um, impacts from failures to local
Yeah.
businesses and residents, and we don't like to see it. That's not something that we're used to. So
But
that's
it's
a
definitely beyond its useful life.
yeah, it's quite an undertaking. It's a large project, but it's one that we're excited to take on, and I'm sure people
It is
and
very
businesses in that area will be excited for that to be done as
So
well.
the rates actually incorporated the planning of the State Highway 83 infrastructure as well for you.
Um, our rates did look at that, and so initially with this rate increase, our consulting firm that we use every year, we look at our cash flows and kind of see where we're at. Um, we think that we will be able to cash flow a good portion of that debt. Um, it might change a little bit with taking the lower rate of return, but we may not necessarily need to do a rate increase for it up front right away. But you know, as I said earlier, I
If
mean,
we stay on top of it, we could, be in good shape.
yeah, we could. That's something that could be put off, or if I think it's like I was saying earlier, if you want your rates to be flatter, maybe it would be the time to do a rate increase for that, or we could push it off and keep the rates flat, and people would see a larger spike off in the future.
So, as we come to the end of this wonderful conversation, if residents want more information, did you say you have a website or a landing page on the utility site where they could come and get more information on this rate
Yeah,
adjustment?
we've put some information. Try to put up as much information as we can on the utilities page. There's water rate increase tab on the left side that you can go to. If you're not finding what you're looking for, you can certainly reach out to me at the utilities office. If there's things that you would like to see or whatever, again, also reach out to me for that and be happy to see what I can do.
All righty. Well, thank you very much, Wayne. We appreciate the time you gave for us today. I think this was very insightful, and it's good to hear once in a while and be reminded what this stuff means. So until next time, thank you, folks, and we will see you again from the den.